What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, thank you very much for stopping in. Today we're going over how to change out your front brake caliper on your Jeep TJ, in this case 1999 Jeep Wrangler. Just a few items you're going to want to have to take on this project, like a breaker bar or tire iron, of course, 19mm socket. That's what my lug nuts are. You're going to want a socket wrench, a 13mm socket, 15mm socket, and then for the little bleeder port you're going to need, this is a 3/8. Of course, they can't have anything be consistent. A 9mm socket is too small for the bleeder, and a 10mm socket is too large, so you have to go to standard 3/8. A wire brush to do some cleaning up while you're under there. A pry bar or a long screwdriver to get those old calipers off. You'll of course want some brake cleaner and some .3 brake fluid for your brake bleeding process. Obviously, you'll need new calipers and pads. But other than that, these are just a few basic tools that you're going to need. You can see this caliper is in really rough shape, which is of course why we're replacing it. This Jeep has sat for quite a while. The rotors are in not the best shape either. These will be replaced also. But because this is a 99, I'm going to make sure, and this is the first time I've had the wheel off, so I'm going to make sure I measure this rotor and hub just to make sure we get the proper one, because we know that 99, at a certain point in 99, if there was an actual certain point, they switched the hub and rotor design, so we need to make sure we get the proper fitment. So behind the caliper here, there's two bolts that we have to pay attention to, and then the brake line. The first top one here and the bottom one here. They're bolts. They hold the caliper on to the assembly, but they're essentially the slide pins also. So we're going to take these out. I believe they're 13mm. Before we do that, we might crack this brake line loose to make sure it's just finger tight, so we can more easily detach it when the caliper itself is loose. Another good idea, if you are in the northern regions of the United States especially, you know that rust can be an issue on the underside of vehicles and components like this. So anytime you have access to points like this, always just spray a bunch of lubricant on all the bolts and stuff. You never know when you might have to loosen them in the future, and it's good just to have them soaked with some lubricant. These calipers are rusty, but luckily the brakes have been serviced recently, so these bolts aren't locked down, thankfully. Love how manufacturers mix and match. The brake line is held on by a 15mm. That broke loose quite easily. Just gonna make sure it's finger tight so I'm not leaking brake fluid everywhere. Get these caliper bolts the rest of the way out. New calipers should come with new mounting hardware. Get those out. Now, they're always pretty well secure on here. Take a little pry bar or a long screwdriver and pull these out. Top and bottom. See it start to come loose. You can always note how the pads are seated in here too. Every car is a little bit different. You see the little tab goes on top of this little arm. There we go. I'll set this off into a place that doesn't put a lot of pressure on the brake line. Just like that. We have the fresh caliper here, which is much nicer looking. You can see that it comes with two copper washers. So you want to make sure you sandwich your brake line here in between the two washers. And then you have your hardware, which you'll be able to feel should be lubricated. Don't set them on the ground, don't get them dirty. But first, we load the caliper with the new pads. Don't touch the face of the pads either. Try to keep your grubby little fingers off of them. You want them to be inserted in the proper orientation. You can see this little 3-prong backing of this pad will go in. Put your fingers on the end and seat it in there. Curve is facing down. It goes in the same orientation, facing the brake pad inward, obviously. And then these little arms follow the little track here. Like that. With your rotor back on the hub, we're able to place the caliper in its proper location. Pad seated on the bottom little rail here, the top. There. Take your little mounting bolts, your slide pins, whatever you want to call them, slide bolts. Just get them started. It's nice when they line right up. If you buy the set of them and you're going to do both and they're not labeled passenger or driver, the bleeder port should be on top. Alright, so now we want to do the delicate maneuver. 2 copper washers. One goes against the head of the bolt and the other one sandwiches the brake line in between it. And so it'll go, this goes against the caliper and the brake line. Now just finger tight. You can see here there's a flat spot to the end of the brake line. It obviously lines up with the flat spot in the caliper to prevent it from rotating. Tighten it down, not super tight. Make sure you check your manufacturer's specifications. And then you're good to go. I mean, that's pretty much it. Then you gotta, of course, bleed the brake system, get somebody to help you. Pump, 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 hold firm, break the bleeder port. You know the process. Can of brake cleaner is good to have. Make sure you spray everything down. You don't want a bunch of greasy fingerprints all over your rotors and things like that. Of course, a floor jack and jack stands, or a jack stand and some wheel chocks would be good to hold. Make sure the vehicle don't roll off on you. Not too bad of a job. I'm pretty confident that you can handle it on your own. Thank you guys very much for watching. More Jeep Wrangler stuff to come for you. If you're interested in following along on the project, make sure you hit the subscribe button, thumbs up, comment below. All that stuff helps continue to grow the channel. Thank you again for watching. I appreciate the support. We'll see you in the next one.